Welcome to the Course One podcast. In this podcast, we explore the emerging open financial system. We dive into scalability, interoperability, proof of stake, blockchains, and many other parts of this coming financial singularity. Tune in every Monday to dive deep into these cutting-edge projects and protocols with Course One team members and guests.
Hi, and welcome to the Course One podcast. Today, I'm very proud to say that I'm joined by a good friend of mine, Mirko Schmiedl, who is the co-founder of Staking Rewards. Welcome, Mirko.
Yes, thanks for having me. Very glad to be here and talk with you about staking and all the stuff.
Yeah, amazing. This favorite topic. We spent quite a few evenings already talking about these topics. So I'm super glad to have you on and talk a bit more about your project and your thoughts around proof of stake. So why don't we get started about you first? How did you get into crypto? How did you come to found Staking Rewards?
Yeah, sure. So I've kind of been interested in finance and investing in stocks and everything since I'm very young, 16 or something. Early 2013, I heard about Bitcoin from a friend of mine and was very fascinated by the idea of having a decentralized currency that can kind of be an alternative to the legacy traditional finance. I've seen the long-term vision of it and was very fascinated by it and wanted to learn more and explore more, but kind of didn't dig super deep into it because there was not much information about it. But generally, I've stayed interested in it over the course of the next 2 or 3 years. Early 2016, early 2017, I got full-time back to it and it caught my attention again and I've learned more. Started a mining business as well with a friend of mine, and at that time I've lived in Thailand. We set up a mid-sized mining operation for Bitcoin and Litecoin. Seeing the high friction of it, to stay competitive in the mining business, I was looking into other currencies and other algorithm types to consider, and proof of stake was very early on caught my attention. With NXT and Peercoin at that time, was mostly the only coins which could be staked, and I invested in a few of them and staked them and saw that it's super easy to stake it and earn these rewards, but I couldn't find any resource in the internet where I can compare all the different staking assets and see how much you can earn and how to earn them. There were no tutorials or no aggregated information about all of these coins. And then in late 2017, I just open sourced all my research I did on all of the proof of stake assets and put it on the website, which is StakingRewardscom. Since then it kind of evolved to where it is right now, which is a full-fledged, very data-heavy website with information on a lot of assets and providers and everything.
Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna talk a lot about the site itself. And also, hopefully, a bit more about staking and proof of stake. I think it's a very interesting history how you came from mining to staking, actually experiencing yourself the problems and then coming up with this solution, which is I think also the popularity of the site kind of speaks for it. So that's very cool. And just looking at the site right now, I mean, you mentioned, it's a full-fledged site for data about staking. And maybe we can just go through what exactly users or visitors of StakingRewards.com can do right now on the site.
Yeah, sure. So right now, the main focus is on all the different staking assets, where we have around 66 assets which have dynamic live blockchain data right now, and there are a few more where we just have basic research and information. Users can go to the platform and look through all the different assets, see which coins they hold in their portfolio, and then find options to earn rewards on their investment. So there are many different options to proceed with staking, you can delegate or you can run a node yourself and all of this stuff. And we have the options laid out on the coin profiles. So you can see the rewards for different options. For delegating, it's a little bit less than for running a node yourself, but then you have infrastructure cost, which you have to cover, and there are many different metrics to consider, the lockup and the frequency of the rewards, the stability of the rewards. In the calculator that we just introduced, it's kind of easy to put in your individual setup with which provider are you using, how much are your infrastructure costs, and which options you leverage to earn these rewards. And you can also make some network assumptions to the extent like how many % of the network is staking and what is the block time going to be and how many fees are spent in the network, which are distributed to stakers as well. So it's kind of easy to make predictions on the rewards.
Yeah, that does sound super useful. Do you think this kind of data helps you make a better investment decision? Is that a goal of staking rewards for people to do that?
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, definitely. So we, like the formulas we develop are kind of prediction formulas. So, and having all of these data, we can kind of predict what is like the average percentage of the network staking for like a certain network type. So we can predict if the rewards are going to go down or go up in the midterm or long term. Also, we consider like block reward halvings or something like this. Yeah, I think it's a lot of data that people can leverage to see if it's worth it to invest in an asset or not. But obviously, we don't have any advice or opinion on it. We just provide the data and people can make their own decision.
Yeah, that's a very cool part about the site. I think that's very unopinionated. And also, I think another part of it, there's also like a lot of information around staking itself, and kind of you have a glossary, and there's the blog where also my newsletter, you also posted the staking economy, so people can also read about different coins. So I think there's also like some educational element to it, which I think is really cool. And like we mentioned now all the data about the assets, but there's also the other part of it, I think, which is the staking providers. But we'll get into these later, actually. Let's stick with the tokens for a second and maybe figure out how do you come up with which tokens to list, how I see there is a score of like a star rating for specific tokens. Can you maybe go into like how do you list these tokens? How do you keep up with the constant growth of new staking assets coming out, and how is like the score?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question, because there are like most of the new blockchains that are launched right now are proof of stake, and there's a lot of interest for them to be listed on the site, so they can, like, the users can see how attractive the blockchain is to stake and to take part in securing the network. Like from the beginning, we've just considered like some basic ratings for like the complexity, the risk, and the reward, and made a score out of it. And for the new website, we are considering like way more metrics, like for example, the different options to earn rewards on each asset and the inflation as well. So it's very interesting to see for users, like, are they getting diluted or not in general? And the stability of the rewards, the frequency, how often do you receive a reward, which is kind of interesting for the compounding effect. Like when you receive your rewards like every day, you have like a very high compounding effect. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just the complexity, how high is the friction to take part in securing the network and earning rewards, and is there any risk like slashing or something like this? Yeah. And all of this we aggregate and have some scales to make a score out of it.
Okay, that sounds super interesting. I think, like maybe, as we already mentioned, you also just said that like lots of these new projects coming out are actually proof of stake. There's many different approaches to it. There's different slashing parameters or things. So I think it's very useful to have the site that kind of tries to aggregate it, and also for people that are in this industry because sometimes you forget, for example, how exactly does this protocol do it. It is nice to have this resource to just come back to and see, this is where this is where I find
it's very good to stay open-minded for all kind of projects, and can all learn from each other. And it's not like, it's like the opposite of the maximalism vision. Like we want to have all of them and we want to represent all of them. So I think this will benefit the whole ecosystem and drive the whole industry forward, like learning from each other and being able to access resources from other blockchains, and just having all the easy to access information about incentive models and how these blockchains develop. And So is that the vision for Staking Rewards, kind of like providing this data to
to people that to understand the. I guess it's almost like investment opportunity or staking, or do you also see, for example, this newly emerging kind of DeFi space as a like consideration for staking rewards to also include those kind of rewards from interest earning from loaning out your tokens into the platform, or where do you see this going? Maybe like you can talk a bit about your grand future vision for staking rewards.
That's very interesting. I think there are a lot of opportunities in which direction we can go, and right now it's like mostly focused on proof of stake and staking. The space is still super early, and we can do a lot with it, and we still want to cover like the whole ecosystem with it, make it very easy like for users in the proof of stake ecosystem. In the future, definitely like it makes sense to compare like the options from staking with options from lending or other kind of dividends from security tokens and something like this, because it will be very interesting to see like are people gonna lend their coins or stake their coins, and what are the effects on like the security of the network and the individual rewards basically. And if someone decides to just lend their Ethereum and doesn't stake it, it could imply some security risks for the network, and we can kind of provide data to design these blockchains like sustainable in the future, because we have like all the empirical data from other projects, and at the same time we can kind of find the best individual option for users to earn rewards or earn passive income on their investment, whatever it is. Like some of them have like the grand vision in mind, like large token holders or medium-sized token holders. They want to have like a very secure and healthy network, so they might choose to stake their tokens even by receiving lower rewards, whereas like small token holders just care about like the quick buck, so they want to lend their coins because they have a higher return and don't care much about the overall ecosystem and something like this.
Yeah, there's some really interesting dynamics there, and especially I think in this DeFi context where we're going to see like a lot of experiments, I'm sure, and probably also staking rewards or the data of staking rewards will help kind of price these financial instruments that will come into existence, and also inform other people, for example, MakerDAO or something, setting their stability fees according to how the state of the network is and things like this. You could imagine a lot of use cases where staking this data becomes useful. But staking rewards is not just the data. I think like if you look around the site and if you just follow for a while, and you're gonna see there were also doing a lot of research and talking about these projects and the space in general. So specifically, you conducted like recently quite extensive research reports. Like actually, it's almost like a study. Yeah, can you maybe talk about like why do you do that, and what do you want to achieve with writing like these research reports?
Yeah, like we called it like the staking ecosystem case study, where we like interviewed like 250 of our users, interviewed like 16 staking providers, like Chorus One, for example, and
very good one.
Of course, yeah. And just to figure out like the state of the whole industry, the state of the ecosystem, and which problems we're going to face and how we can solve them to build like a sustainable ecosystem and a secure ecosystem around proof of stake and staking. And I mean, this is in our interest, the same as is in the interest of all the staking providers to have like a healthy proof of stake ecosystem. I believe it's at the same time, it's very beneficial for all the users and basically everyone in the world who's using blockchains to have a very healthy and secure network. And we just want to open like the conversation about topics like and problems we are facing and stuff like this.
I think that was really interesting, especially because it came from this kind of almost independent side, right? Staking Rewards doesn't have like lots of affiliation with stuff, so it's kind of cool to get together all these different opinions and then trying to bundle them. I think it's like the perfect fit. That was really nice, and I really enjoyed participating in that. And also like obviously the execution was very nice. Maybe did you like, what were your key takeaways from specifically, I think, the staking ecosystem case study that we just talked about. Can you maybe talk about like your key takeaways of this? Did it actually impact your thinking about like the staking reward sides or yeah?
Yeah, I think the main thing is like that we're still like super early in the whole ecosystem, and that we haven't found like the perfect incentive model for blockchains. And we need to see like a lot more experimentation going on with different blockchains. And that's why I think it's great to have like the whole ecosystem of many different chains who all have like similar incentives, but also like very different ones, and see how this plays out in the long term. And we want to give everyone a chance to have the ecosystem grow and have their input, and people can learn from it. Yeah, I think another main takeaway was like that it's very important to have like simplified education and on all of this, where I think staking rewards can actually play a big role in it to help not like the average Joe to understand it, but rather like the crypto native people to understand it. Yeah, because there's a lot of like terminology which is very protocol specific, and we can just try to make this more generic on the platform, so it's easier for users and for protocol developers and basically everyone to understand in a very simple fashion the economics of different blockchains.
Yeah, maybe it also helps kind of to kind of find a common terminology for people to use, and just that it's easier for everyone to compare what other people are doing and how it's to actually call stuff and just come up with this. Because right now it's very scattered. Like you're calling it Baker's validator and
super nodes, master nodes, secure nodes, service nodes.
I'm sure there's like a lot more stuff that people come up with in their marketing material. Yeah, that's really cool. And I think you also already mentioned like in that survey you interviewed kind of 16 key players, I think you called it, and it's mostly was people from the staking industry, from basically staking providers like Chorus One, or I think also Figment, staking facilities, and all these teams. And now I see you're also started to list like the staking providers on the website. Maybe can you talk a bit about how you think about this kind of staking provider industry and what you want to achieve with the listings on the website?
Yeah. Like basically we want to make it easy for users to find the best provider for their individual needs. And we currently provide information for each provider, like which assets they support, and do they have like a custodial or non-custodial staking service. And then we have general information about what this provider is and how they handle governance decisions, what is their security like infrastructure setup, what kind of value-added services are they developing apart from the staking main business that they do. So it's like, especially for large and medium token holders, it's very interesting to stake with providers who offer community tools and help like the whole ecosystem to grow and evolve.
So it's interesting that you also mentioned like the setup of the staking providers and stuff like this. Do you think it might become like also a side of that kind of tries to rate these staking providers across like some historical metrics, like for example their uptime or the slashings they got, and also maybe the security of their setup? Do you think there will be like a score that you had for the coins also for staking providers at some point?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is in the midterm. We want to aggregate data for like how many assets are under control from each provider, and apart from like community tools, and which is at the moment still kind of a little bit generic, but we can go very deep into it and look at very specific topics like, do they offer like legal agreements to their delegators, or do they have some insurance or guarantees to offer like 100% uptime guaranteed? And do they have some reporting and dashboards, or can you do delegation on the site directly, or do they partner with any wallets, or are they even a wallet themselves? And it would be beneficial to have like open source infrastructure as well, where it's very easy to see like how they manage it, and you can trust it because you see that this infrastructure is very secure and it's not like just some
Guy running it in his basement.
Yeah.
So, but like maybe like this is a good segue. Kind of now we're talking about these professional staking platforms, like really firms doing it. But then again, in your study, actually, one of the questions was whether you asked like your users, the 250 people, whether they would run Node themselves if it was like easy to set it up, and actually like 70% of the people said yes to that question. And at the same time, we're talking about these big professional players, and that make it very easy to kind of delegate the tokens. And how do you like see this evolving? Do you think there will be a mix of different style operators? Like, for example, some people doing it themselves, someone offering a service to run your own node versus like I'm going with a big provider, or also I'm leaving my coins on the exchange, they do it? Or do you think one thing will really dominate?
Yeah, I mean, in the long term, I think like all the small like token holders who doesn't have like a lot of value in the investment, they will all go to an exchange and use some custodial services because they just have the best UX for the users, and this is what people care about the most in the end, like the UX and the friction to take part in it. So, and in the case study, there was also like a question to our users, like if they would use a custodial service, if it was trusted, and most of them said, yeah, of course they would. And yeah, I think a lot of this is going to move to exchanges or like custodial services basically, and they can provide like liquidity and everything very easily. It will be hard for small players to sustain in the long run, except they kind of find like a very specific niche where they can convince people by focusing on one very, very thing and be like the best in it, like for some community tools or something like this.
Okay, yeah. And I mean, I guess our hope in a way is also that this it will be possible to kind of achieve the same UX or the same experience, or maybe even a better one, through decentralized means than what a custodial player can offer right now. I think this is something that we at Chorus One specifically are very interested in, because we see it as a very big danger to proof of stake if everything moves to these centralized exchanges that are all operated out of God knows who.
Yeah,
where.
I would love to see something like this. I mean, you already have this the idea for delegation vouchers, and I think this is like a great direction where we should experiment more and develop more things to have all of this nice UX and liquidity in a decentralized fashion.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, also kind of related to this, I think, right? A lot of times the staking tokens also carry some kind of governance power in them. So basically you have this on-chain governance. You can vote if you have the token. Maybe you can actually delegate your votes. Often it's also connected maybe with your staking provider, that you kind of delegate your vote to them. So it's also dangerous there if there's a lot of centralization, obviously. But how do you think about this part of the staking? And also, are there any plans for staking rewards to include like governance questions or stuff like this on the side, or is that something you don't want to?
I mean, sometimes this is very protocol specific. It probably goes very deep into the discussion about governance, and I'm not sure to which extent the users can or want to participate in the governance. So that's something we have to figure out, I think, and see if we should provide or if we could provide a platform for users to discuss governance things, or if we could provide it to the providers directly to discuss things about governance and figure out like good decision. Yeah, but in general, we want to empower like small providers as well to be able to be represented and find users on our platform. So in the end, we all need decentralization to have a healthy network.
Yeah.
And
I think, my question also in this direction was more about maybe there will be some, like, everyone has, or these blockchains mostly have these proposals, and then you basically have some history of how people voted. Maybe you can also include that in the staking provider profile, how they voted in which way. Maybe there's like something there. I don't know if you thought about that. That was just like a thought I had.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's not that easy, not that hard to implement, and would be nice to have. And maybe we can even give them flags like which sort of proposals they're voting for, and it's like
a liberal staking provider
to see like which parties they belong to.
Yeah, I actually think there's like a huge space there that could be really interesting, but maybe it's also not the highest value one, who knows, but it's definitely very interesting to explore. Yeah, and maybe like switching gears totally right now to another topic that is, I guess, also kind of related to governance though. So, in crypto generally, we have a very kind of separation between these two worlds, where there's the Western world that you are also mostly a part of because we're here in Berlin. And then there's like the Asian world, I would say, or mostly is like China. And I know you went to the Guangxiang Blockchain Week recently and were invited to a panel about staking there. And I just wanted to ask you like about your impression of staking or proof of stake in China and how you experienced it versus the Western world.
Yeah, sure. So, China in general was very fascinating. It was my first time in China, and I was kind of like very fascinated by the whole quantitative innovation in there and like how far they are actually in terms of development and everything. And the whole crypto and blockchain scene is very big there. Like there's a lot of things going on. And I do see, like, because there's a huge mining industry in China, and I feel like people are realizing right now that proof of stake could actually have more impact on the future than proof of work. And this is what I felt on the conference, that even like very hardcore miners are starting to be interested in proof of stake, which is like a very slow process, but it's just starting right now. And I can see that there are even like blockchain projects out of China coming out, and they're all proof of stake. And yeah, generally they are starting to getting very open-minded about proof of stake right now. And I think,
it's kind of interesting to hear this. Like if you think about miners, obviously became very big in China because you were able to kind of scale this hardware and find cheap sources of electricity. Like generally China is very good at scaling things up to some extremely crazy dimension that we cannot imagine.
Yeah, they have to. They're like 1.3 billion people. So
yeah, so I can see that working out in like proof of work, but if you think about proof of stake, it's kind of a totally different game, at least at the moment, where it's not so much about like just having like lots of hardware and trying to optimize your cost, but it's more, there's like a lot of nuance, a lot of conversations, people a lot of trying to improve networks, and it's a totally different game, I think, where you have to be much more involved in the protocol, in the network and everything, and also probably with investors that hold the tokens. Maybe there is kind of a overlap where you have to kind of get involved. In China, probably there's also a lot of capital. If people are interested in proof of stake, they will go there.
I think all the staking companies in China, they're actually very big. Like they have employees like plus like 30 plus or something, and like here in the Western world, it's like we are like, or like 5+ people or something for like most of the staking providers. And they're like they do a lot to work with regulators because it's kind of necessary to be aligned with like the vision of government and regulators and everything. So I think they're well positioned in the Chinese market because they have the direct access to regulators and stuff. But I'm not sure if they can compete on like innovation side of things, because
I guess there's also this question is because in the end you want the networks to be global, right? You don't want like your Chinese network only and then the Western one. Ideally, we would want to have both parts connected. This will probably prove to be like very unknown if that is actually going to work out, or if
I hope so. I mean, this is what
that would be because
blockchain
right now
is about.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, how can we make that happen? I guess I think it's very good already that you're going to China, right? People are also interested in these projects that happen here, and maybe like there needs to be more exchange. Or what do you think would help?
Yeah, I think the main thing is like we need to have very open concourse and talk about stuff and understand each other and learn from each other, and like just making sure we all build this together and no one is like hiding behind some firewall or something. Like, just as long we can communicate all together, and like I think we are very good at communicating globally. Like all of the companies in the blockchain space, like they have employees from all around the world, and it's working fine. And as long everyone can communicate, I think there won't be any big problems. But we just have to make sure that we are able to.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
I think we can slowly start to wind up here, and maybe for a last kind of open question, can you maybe talk about a bit what are you really interested in the world of staking or even crypto right now? What excites you? What do you think will be the next big thing? It can be anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things going on, and I think like the whole proof of stake space will grow significantly in the next year, especially with Ethereum going live and Polkadot going live, and like basically all the new blockchains that are coming out right now, they're all proof of stake, and I hope to see like a lot of experimentation, and I even hope to see like maybe some black swan events or something, that something goes wrong in one protocol and other protocols can learn from it. Like obviously no one wants to be it, but maybe someone has to someone
has to do the first step, please.
Yeah. Something has to go wrong, please.
Super.
I think this would be great for the whole ecosystem. Like we haven't seen any big problems with proof of stake yet. Like in proof of work, like we've seen like attacks, 51% attacks and everything, but proof of stake has been like very smooth so far.
I mean, do you think for the transition, or let's say like, do you actually think there will be, I guess this could be like a very good final question, the kind of question, what is proof of stake, what will be proof of work, like what will be the split between those? Will both still exist, or do you also think probably like something needs to go wrong in proof? You're saying something should go wrong in proof of stake, but do you think something also needs to go wrong in proof of work for proof of stake to actually take off, or is proof of stake so much better that it will kind of naturally
I think naturally everything will move to proof of stake, and there will be only one blockchain which is proof of work, and this kind of the nature of proof of work, that there can be only one blockchain because the mining power is fungible and the stake power is non-fungible. So it kind of like, just from looking from it in like a very basic way, it makes sense that there's only one proof of work chain. And I believe Bitcoin is great as a proof of work chain, and I want Bitcoin to succeed, and I think it can act as like a base layer for many other proof of stake chains, and all of them can coexist.
Okay. That's a very cool last statement. I think, we should probably stop here. So maybe like for a final thing, where can people find you? Like, what do we want to shout out about Staking Rewards?
Yeah, visit the website, StakingRewardscom, follow us on Twitter, join our Telegram, ask questions, and if you want to see any features, any tools, just hit us up. If you have any ideas or something, like, we're very open to talk about everything and make the site have the most value for everyone in the ecosystem and have the ecosystem to grow.
Okay, thank you so much, Mirko.
Cool, yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Chorus One podcast. Visit chorus.one for more information about our work. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to stay tuned on new episodes airing every Monday.